If you want to be able to buy the most expensive players and open the best packs in FC25, go to u7buy.com to buy your EA FC25 coins. It's cheaper than buying FC points and just as reliable. With their already amazing prices, you can get an extra 8% using promo code Inception at checkout. Okay, guys, so we're just doing the review for Rolfo, so be sure to check it out. Okay, so yeah, with cards like Rolfo, it takes a little bit longer to review because you use them in like more than 2 positions, and if you're playing and trying to get goals and stuff with them, sometimes take longer because most of your goals usually doesn't come from those cards. It just depends, right? So, but yeah, today we have another paid evolution, 60k for this one. When you're 25 and you realize you've been playing the wrong position your entire life. Center mid, box to box, playmaker, center mid, half winger, pings pass, tiki taka. Oh, so you get a defensive boost for this one. Box to box, half winger, pings pass, relentless. Yeah, but your defense needs to be significantly higher. I mean, you give them the passing stuff. Okay, that makes more sense. That makes more sense. Because I'm like, brother, because I'm looking at this card initially. I'm like, yo, you need to get way better defensive stats. Are you crazy? Anyways, so do you just mainly get passing stuff? So you just don't get any defensive things, but you get defensive stats. Okay, so box to box center mid with a pings pass, and he still has pings pass though. Okay, so meta wise, I think they should have at least provided a base intercept. At the very least, I think that's very important, to be honest with you, because you're changing these cards to center mids. You're giving them a very significant stat increase in defense, but as I mentioned in the discussion video recently, playstyles are very important. You don't actually have 99 standing tackles unless you have anticipate that will enforce your stats even more. Now, if you didn't have playstyles and you have 99 standing tackles, this is a cracked out SB or a cracked out evolution. You guys get what I'm saying? So just be mindful of that when doing these. But the thing is that these cards, they still look pretty cool, right? Especially if you are doing it for sentimental dudes. You're like, hey, you know, he doesn't have defensive capabilities in the center mid area. Center mid is not really like a huge meta as of right now, but it could be in the future. Maybe with a patch, you know, maybe the playstyles don't have to be as relevant as some of the base card stats for cards, you know, like it all depends. It all depends on what EA feels like doing. But I think with this card, I would still use them on the left-hand side. To be honest, left-footed on the left-hand side with some defensive stats would still be great. Box to box, while being a good player that can score a lot of opportunities. Can't really go wrong with that with Griezmann. Finesse shot plus, honestly, you would obviously be able to utilize it more on the right hand side, but with a 3-star weak foot, it kind of makes them linear, you know. So if I get inside the 18-yard box in any box to box role, I could still potentially score finesse shots with his right foot if the, you know, situation presents itself. You know what I'm saying? So that's important to mention. Alvarez is the next card here. A fan favorite in general over here with the press proven plus on him. I don't know about nowadays, but as a midfielder, again, very good improvements. I don't really care if he doesn't have slide tackle. I do care that he doesn't really have too much interceptions. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think with this card, I don't really care. As of right now, I think more so in the future, I would care more about like potential upgrades when it comes to giving him more defensive playstyles, which they could totally do for Foot Birthday, right? You have to be very mindful of that. But in my opinion, as of right now, not even kidding when I say this, I would probably just use him mainly as an actual attacker that plays in the cam position because he has the Shadow Striker plus to work with in that area. So it's like, okay, I don't really have to care too much about dribbling because he has a press proven. A pinged pass would be crazy on the right-hand side. In the midfield, like I said, some of his defensive stats are a little bit low. Like interceptions being low is a little bit annoying because it's a very cut back meta, especially since in this case, you'd be using a center mid without him being able to track back pretty much all the way, right? But yeah, it would just be like a card that you use in that area just to like mainly attack with, you know? Sanset. This is from the Player of the Month card. I mean, you do make him significantly more usable, to be honest. Really good passing capabilities as well. But again, you know, they format these cards where they're kind of low in certain areas. Striker, you could totally do too if you really wanted to, because his dribbling is not like that horrible. I would honestly use him as like a physical type attacker, if anything, right? But he doesn't really have like the greatest roles up top. He still has a false 9++, which would still be good, because with the false 9++, this is a card that would essentially be very helpful for you in the general build-up play, right? Because his passing would be phenomenal to work with, right? Tiki-taka, pinged pass, and incisive pass is kind of crazy, right? But dribbling might be a little bit weird. I mean, the usability is definitely there, 100%, but it just depends, right? I think with a card like this, most people would probably just give him a shadow and then just use him in the midfield situation. Because there are, to be fair, there are certain cards that don't have a lot of defensive playstyles, like this one, right? And he was pretty good without them. But that was during that time period. Evolution. Do you have a new one? I was about to say. That was during that time period. You know, I will say that for me, I like to have the playstyles on most of the cards, but with Reinders, he was really solid without it. So it could be a similar situation, right? With the passing being really good, a lot of pro players really like to just have the passing on the cards. They're not like as crazy about like, oh, if I don't have defensive playstyles for certain cards. Like I said, some base mechanic stuff needs to be there. Like with Reinders, he still does like solid defensive stuff for you, but just gotta be very mindful of that, right? The Ketelaere is another card that gets an upgrade with the pinged pass being added to him. Has center mid stuff. But yeah, mainly for attacking stuff. Excuse me. With a card like this, from what I'm honestly seeing, it's just a card that, in my opinion, you give a hunter chemistry style to, and then if you're okay with using like physical type attackers, he would be an interesting one to use on that left-hand side, because like with the shadow striker specifically, because as of right now, the dribbling, I mean, the dribbling is kind of low in certain areas. I'm not gonna say that it's not. Mid 80s would maybe be a little bit annoying to work with at 6'4". It probably would be, but the thing is having the defensive stuff. Like if I don't have defensive playstyles as a center mid, but then I have defensive stats as an attacker, it is very helpful to have as an attacker, right? Obviously, if they had playstyles, even better, but obviously that wouldn't be the case. But I mean, yeah, sure. Technically speaking, you could go down the road of just giving this card a shadow, using him in the midfield setup on the left-hand side specifically, and then hopefully his height, body type, physical presence is noticeable in the game where you don't really care too much about the defensive playstyles, right? It's either that, or for a card like this, you could go down the road of giving him an anchor just to keep him at a controlled lengthy, right? Which could be really good because of the small little physical boost that you get as well. But I think for the most part, most of you would probably give him a shadow and just kind of go from there. If he was a lengthy on a shadow, I would say there's a lot of potential to work with there, to be honest. Like even on a hunter as an attacker would be a very interesting concept for sure. But yeah, Mikel Merino gets one as well. Unfortunately, he doesn't really get anything in regards to you know, skill moves or weak foot, but he does get a pretty significant boost on the card to make him more usable. But this version here, he had center mid stuff already with box to box, so that's where it's a little bit more debatable. But you are providing with the pinged pass, right? So the pinged pass would be the big variable here, with 3 of the very nice play styles, right? So I mean, you know, technically speaking, for fun, you could use him in the striker position. Is it a card that you mainly use as a midfielder? Yeah, and honestly, like if they actually gave him defensive playstyles, he could be really solid there as a controlled, lengthy player, to be honest with you. But that's something that you obviously would have to like experiment with in game to kind of see how he would generally feel. But I mean, he could be decent. Like that box to box on a lengthy with a shadow, I mean, it's honestly not looking bad. And then if there's a foot birthday evolution that improves it even more, could be nice. Okay, moving on. Let's see what else we got here. Some cool choices. Who is this? Is this... They made this guy into a striker? I actually had no idea. I mean, you gotta admit, it's pretty funny that you could turn him into a center mid now. But you have to pay to do that. Power shot as a center mid, and don't really care too much about that, to be honest. The pinged pass would be nice. It's so crazy because, honestly, like, you look at these cards and you just think right away, like, yo, if this was back in the day and they drop an evolution like this, without playstyles, like, these are sick cards. Campos on a shadow with good pace. He's got shooting, he's got passing, he's got dribbling, he's got physicality, like... just lacks in playstyles, but honestly, he could actually be pretty solid in game. Power shot as well, so if he does get into the attacking areas, it is something that you can work with too, so... Normally, you don't always go with power shot in those areas, but... I guess it depends too, right? Let's see what else we have here. I mean, this one's going to have, like, quite a few options. Like, Roberto Firmino is an interesting one just because of the defensive boost. Ronaldo gets such a significant defensive boost, and it's still horrible. That's really funny. So the main thing here is actually just giving him the pinged pass, because if you were to give him like a Hunter chemistry style, the dribbling and stuff is still quite low. And then we also have that flashback coming out soon, so there is that too. Toney... So he gets chip shot, finesse shot. Yeah, I think with this evolution, guys, I mean, you can go on the route of just giving it to players that you kind of hope end up being really nice in the game, but it's based off of hopes, because if, like I said, if this was back in the day, like, honestly, you'd be kind of getting like guaranteed bangers without playstyles, right? Because again, he lacks in defensive ones, but he could still be solid defensively. It's one of those things, like, it's a strange thing because he has the stats, he is 6'2", he's got a big body type, so he could actually do like some physical engagements for you in this in the midfield area, right? So that type of stuff you have to kind of like see in game too. Cavani from the flashback actually gets one too. Power header, pinged pass. Would I ever utilize power header as a center mid? Unless they overcommit like crazy, I guess. Like I said, there's like two different ways of looking at this, right? Because you could just go on the route of giving them that defensive boost and then still use them as an actual striker. You know? You could. But these cards are very outdated to do that specifically. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I guess if you go with like Alvarez is like one of those options that I'm talking about, where it's like I use him in the attack and it's like it could be okay, but the dribbling is low, so you'd have to experiment with the press proven kind of deal, you know. Ruder, same situation, as dribbling is on the lower side, so it's like, okay, maybe I can use him as a physical type attacker up top if you want to, right? But Shadow, I mean, his interceptions is quite low, so this is a card you're giving a Hunter to that actually has defensive stats. That's what I'm saying, right? Like, that's what he kind of looks like for the most part. De Jong with a power header and a pinged pass with defensive stats improved. 4-star, 5-star on him. Yeah, I mean, these are cool, but like you have to remember that you're paying for this, right? And Kunku. If this was back in the day, buddy, you know what's another variable too? If this was like last year and they release an evolution like this, knowing that 4-3-2-1 is the most meta thing ever, you're getting like monstrous cards, because 4-3-2-1 would have that one center mid that is the attacker basically, right? And if it was a card like this, bro, this card would absolutely cook for this evolution as a midfielder, 100%, especially with a pinged pass. The box to box, yeah, I mean these cards would absolutely cook for sure. 69. Defense 86. Ketelaere. Yeah, I mean, from the looks of it, it's just one of those types of evils where it's like you pay for it. It doesn't really look super crazy for paying for it. In on goal, Inaki Williams. There's an Evo that's 7,500 coins. I don't even know that, to be honest with you. this Evo is not even trending at all. Not that one. I'm saying like the Toon Squad one, because it's not like super crazy. Yeah, like this one, giving him some defensive stats is like all right, but yeah. What about the Cruyff card? What happened to the Cruyff card? Nah. Cruyff has one that gives him like 99 dribbling. That evolution, whatever that one is the one that you should have done if you did Cruyff. To make him feel a little bit better in game. Like these cards, the pinged pass and stuff is nice, but I mean, dude, even when this card was released, the way that they formatted the dribbling is really cooked. Even during release, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I mean, one of those evolutions where the average consumer is still going to pay for it because they're going to look at their defensive stats for some of their cards. You're going to be like, oh my goodness, I got a crazy card. But the thing is that if you guys do this evolution, again, with Foot Birthday coming out, maybe they do something where they actually give you more defensive playstyles. But there could also be a situation where you use some of these cards and they just cook in game anyways. Right? Because you give them a lot of the you give them a lot of the passing playstyles, right? So it could be a similar situation to Reinders, where it's like, you know, it's a bigger dude and he could still do some defensive stuff, but having the passing stuff is going to be the main thing, right? But yeah, for a paid one, not too crazy for a paid one. I agree with the like to dislike ratio for this one. Sorry, I was looking at the Pokemon collection, but I wasn't really too interested in the Roaring Moon one. But yeah, for this one, I mean, it's not even really trending that much. People are not really that interested in it. So we'll post it. We'll see how it does on YouTube, kind of deal, you know. But nothing too crazy interesting for this one. As a paid one, it's a little bit. Again, you can go in the route of choosing some of these cards because they get a nice defensive boost, but it's a chance when it comes to like how they might perform in game. Like I said, the bigger guys with the bigger body types, they're ones to look at a lot if they have good defense. Like Peter Crouch is still at 77, so that's a little bit, you know. Yeah, like honestly, like if I was gonna choose cards, it'd be like this, because it's like, oh, I get even more defensive stats, and then maybe I get improvements in the future. But even still, it's kind of like, trying to see if I see anybody that like really pops up. Yeah, like I said, if this was released last year, it's a little bit crazier. Chip Shot, Gonzalo Ramos as a center mid. Yeah, I don't know. Like with cards like this, like you would just try to make him as usable as possible in the striker position, but even still, he's poorly formatted from that numero foot card. Dybala? So from the inform, you can give him a 5-star 3. Yeah, but you're paying for that. It's all 60k. 67 defense too. Yeah, one of those evolutions, I would say. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy this video. Not really much to talk about for this one, I would say. But for Foot Birthday and moving on, we should have a lot, to be fair. We should have a lot. But I'll catch you guys for the next one, man. Peace out, dudes. Love you guys.